Okay, well, this is going to be a doozy today, all right?
Let's do it. Bring the heat, Josh.
The heat can be brought to you on a daily basis by following us on Twitter at faithandwhatever or facebook.com/faithandwhatever. I am a huge fan of faithandwhatever.com. I love what those guys are doing over at that site.
And their Twitter.
I think it's good.
Their Twitter is off the chain.
It is going well. Thanks to Brian Sands for the follow and the promo of his stuff. He's got a new book coming out pretty soon called Everybody Loves Sex, So Why Wait? And just the value of commitment there. Even if you disagree with his stuff, it's a pretty good blog to read. So actually, let me plug that real fast.
Yeah, it's kind of a
he's at Brian's
dramatic title, huh?
Yeah, it's a good hook.
It's good.
Everyone loves sex. Everyone loves hooks. Everyone loves sex, so why wait? A discussion in sexual faithfulness is his title. And he's at briansands.wordpress.com.
We're going to bring him on, right, when his book comes out?
Yeah, we will have him on. And so thanks for being a friend of the podcast, Brian. So HB 1523. Oh, HB 1523. That is the name of the religion bill that was just passed in Mississippi. So that is our topic of discussion today.
So what is HB 125?
Give us a rundown.
Okay, yeah. So here is the actual law itself, all right? So it's an act to create the, quote, Protecting Freedom of Conscience from Government Discrimination Act, to provide certain protections regarding a sincerely held religious belief or moral conviction for persons, religious organizations, and private associations, to define a discriminatory action for purposes of this act, to provide that a person may assert a violation of this act as a claim against the government, to provide certain remedies, to require a person bringing a claim under this act to do so no later than 2 years after the discriminatory action was taken, and to provide certain definitions and for related purposes.
Okay, can we bring a lawyer in to define that?
In English, essentially, this is the conservative right's attempt to put specific definitions to things and draw a clear line between church and state kind of understandings there. So under this law, from CNN.com, written by Elliot C. McLaughlin, so under this law, he writes, that religious organizations will be able to deny LGBT people marriage, adoption, and foster care services. I didn't know that there were religious organizations that did foster care services.
I don't think they do as much anymore.
Okay.
It used to be much more common.
Yeah, fire or refuse to employ them and decline to sell them property. Medical professionals will be permitted to refuse to participate in treatments, counseling, and surgery related to sex reassignment or gender identity transitioning. Meanwhile, people who adhere to this aforementioned beliefs also may deny wedding services, including DJing, dressmaking, limo rental, while employers and school admins will be allowed to establish sex-specific standards or policies concerning employee or student dress or grooming. Employees and school admins will be able to dictate access to bathrooms, spas, locker rooms, or other intimate facilities and settings, the law states. Also, it addresses the matter of government officials granting marriage licenses and performing ceremonies, an issue thrust into the spotlight when Kim Davis spent 5 days in jail and was paraded around as a heroine type for the same sex. She didn't give the same sex couple a marriage license. So this is a clear attempt to differentiate between church and state services. What do you guys think? Is there any good in this law? Is it all bad? Is there some hit and miss? I think with anything, rarely is something completely right and rarely is something completely wrong.
Does this address the bathroom issues too?
Yeah.
I was just going to quote the...
So employees and school administrators will be allowed to dictate access to bathrooms, spas, locker rooms, quote, or other intimate facilities and settings, unquote. And then it also states that you can make those things based specifically on the anatomical gender that you are assigned at birth by nature or by God, depending on how you see it. It does.
That's in contrast to the Michigan State Board of Education has drafted a guidance that would push the state schools to allow students, regardless of parental or doctoral input, to choose their gender, name, pronouns, and bathroom.
So, what do we think? Hit and miss? What are some of the goods, if any? What
I
are
feel
some of
like
the bads, if any?
a few of us in this room may land on the fact that it's difficult to accept the government forcing you to do anything that you don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Stay out of the market. Let it regulate and police itself.
this bill would protect. The idea of this bill is to protect from discrimination those who do not want to do certain things based on because of someone's sexual orientation, which seems good, right? We don't like, especially as hopefully modern day Americans, we don't like someone discriminating someone because of their race or their gender and saying, I'm not going to do this for you or sell you this or let you in here because you're a woman or because you're a minority. But the only other opposite side of that is the government forcing you to do something that you don't want to do. So forcing you to marry a same-sex couple but you don't want to do that, or maybe you didn't want to marry them for other reasons because they weren't kind to you or they were rude, and then now they're going to say you didn't marry us because of our sexual orientation, and now I'm going to force you to marry us based on the law.
Don't we have a word for forced labor already?
Slavery?
That was outlawed in the Constitution.
I'm not surprised that this bill has passed, even in contrast to the bill in Michigan. These types of things are only going to get more complicated and more confusing. I have somebody that I look up to, pastor, very loving of the LGBT community, yet isn't sure what he would do if was asked to perform a same-sex marriage. You know, I mean, these types of decisions are going to get very difficult and very confusing, and I'm not sure where we're going to go from here.
Yeah, what do you think, Chris?
I think first off, the bathroom issue should be separate from the discrimination by organizations, because I think that's
Why make that separation?
Because I think that there are some very real concerns and legitimate concerns, and not so much from the transgendered people who are affected by it, but from people who would abuse the law.
Yeah, sure.
Because California, they decided that students could use whatever locker room or bathroom they felt was right for them. And then within days, there were junior high boys going in the girls' locker rooms, and obviously not because they identified as women. Right. So it is open to a lot of abuse if you set these policies a little too broadly.
Yeah, I mean, in the discussion of schools always gets brought up, and students abuse anything.
Yeah.
In a school and try to get away with anything.
Well, there was a college that just had to, I forget which one it was, I should have looked it up before we started, but they just had to close down their gender-neutral bathrooms in the co-ed dorm because guys were trying to use their phones to video girls while they were showering.
Right.
So, I mean, this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, so clearly...
like gender-neutral bathrooms.
I mean, clearly there's
an opportunity for abuse, and it's not by trans people.
Right, and simply because, however, the other side of that is simply because there's opportunity for abuse doesn't mean we can't or we shouldn't make that, some type of legislature for the sake of.
Right, but I think that's why we look at it separately.
Right, yeah,
because otherwise we're
that's a good
making
point.
all this really broad legislation.
Yeah, we're not giving it
that
enough
never happens.
attention that it deserves.
Yeah. Why can't we just all have private bathrooms?
Yeah.
I don't want to share a bathroom with creepy guys either.
Yeah, just a room full of enclosed stalls.
Yeah.
I follow and know a couple people who identify as transgender, and the one thing that we forget is that the transgender population is a very small segment of the population. That doesn't mean that they should be marginalized by any more, or that you shouldn't care about them just because they're less in number. But one thing to be that's just me more explaining why I only know a few. But the idea of that being these are very real issues for them. And so I don't want to make wide sweeping statements or think, just by one large swath, we've got it all covered in
that's a valid point, though. You're saying that someone is struggling to know, not know, but they're struggling to feel comfortable in any one of those bathrooms.
Yeah, and I don't want
their freedom
that for
to choose.
people.
Yeah, right. But that's a valid point. But on the other end of that, should there be laws because of that?
And yeah, I mean, we make laws for weirder things too. So, so more specific to HB 1523. is the understanding of the religious organization's ability to discriminate based on personal held beliefs there. I disagree with the governmental ability to recuse oneself there. I think it's a decent solution to the problem. But if you're going to work for a governmental organization, I think it should come with the attachment of not having any ability to discriminate against anyone simply because it's a government job, and therefore it adheres and really holds to the idea that we don't discriminate based, and we're not one religious thing.
And what are these government jobs?
The idea like being able to issue marriage license. It's the Kim Davis situation.
Yeah, right.
So the issuing of marriage license.
Which is not, this bill doesn't involve that.
It does involve this. So it would allow, in this bill, there's a process that it would allow a person like Kim Davis to recuse herself and have somebody else come in and do that. But for me, the gripe against that is just the disenfranchising that it could cause for the people who are attempting to get married if they have to come back at a different day or if they have to wait a little bit longer. I don't think somebody who is LGBT should be inconvenienced by your inability to do your job as a governmental employee. If you take that job, it should come with those responsibilities and those rights, just for the sake of consistency among the whole board there. I don't know a lot of gay people who want to get married in discriminatory churches there. This is one thing that I have seen come out of the
It's a fair statement.
LGBT community, just the people that I know personally and the people with whom I'm friends. They have told me that they wouldn't get married. They're not going to get married in a Protestant evangelical church. If they do get married in a church at all, which a lot of them don't, because they in that setting, because it is discriminatory to them and they feel that way, from what I've been told. They would get married in an Episcopalian church or maybe a more progressive mainline denomination there. But typically, some of the gay weddings that I've seen are way better decorated than what you could do in a church anyhow.
Some beautiful outdoor setting or a reclaimed textile factory.
I like the ability to separate church and state. I don't want to marry who I don't want to marry. Being ordained as a pastor, I don't think that I should be forced to perform something that goes against my sincerely held religious belief. If that were my religious belief, I don't think that should be something that I'm forced to do. But I struggle with the idea of doing something that is going to continue to cause more, I think, problematic tension between the LGBT community. And I think ultimately at the heart of this issue is a reaction, perhaps an overreaction, by the fundamental right to be able to maintain and reserve liberties that I don't know. I don't know that that's biblical Christianity in the way that I understand it, in the sense that they, as far as I know, wouldn't make a legislature about it. They would just say no and then go to jail there. And so, as opposed to trying to avoid the persecution in general. So, so there, for me, that's the be all end all. I want the religious organization for whom I work to be able to declare what they feel to be truth based on their interpretation of Scripture. I want the LGBT community to feel free to disagree, should they desire. But I don't know that the legislature is necessarily necessary for that. Maybe it is. Maybe it's becoming more necessary by fundamentals on either side. But
it's a valid position to say that. Especially when it comes to religious organizations, is you do not want the state telling you what you have to do, especially religious ceremonies. It would be similar to the government. This may be an overstepping, but the government coming into your individual worship ceremonies and saying, some of these things aren't allowed because they're offensive to those who aren't even here or would never come to your service to begin with.
My ultimate preference would just be to have the government be for the declaration of civil unions. So everybody gets a civil union. Everybody gets the tax breaks that comes with that.
You get a civil union. You get a civil union.
Yeah, and that's what the government does. And if you want to have a marriage ceremony, then you just go to a church to do that or that kind of thing, right? You just completely separate those things.
And there are plenty of churches that will do that.
Right, and even the marriage thing is a little bit too intertwined for me, for my own personal sake of having to, do that governmentally. Just having to help people publish their marriage certificates is just kind of annoying to me. But it's kind of cool to sign them. But whatever. So, what do you think, Chris?
I'm pretty much with you. Yeah, I mean, I think private businesses generally should be able to discriminate so long as they're not actively harming someone with their discrimination.
And why? Why would you make that assertion?
Because I'm with you. I don't think you can force anybody to do something. I really do favor the free market, especially in this case. I remember a while back I was having a discussion with some folks about the pizza place in Indiana, was it? Back in the Midwest. That in a theoretical situation said they would not cater a gay wedding. And people were flipping out over it and saying they should be shut down and we need to pass new laws. And I took the position of let the market handle it. And people called me a bigot and this and that and the other. And within a couple months, Yelp basically destroyed this business.
Yeah.
And they were out of business faster than the government could have passed the law and had it go into effect.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of mechanisms in place, especially with the internet and social media, to deal with these kinds of things.
Self-policing.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
especially at a pizza joint. That's for younger people.
I do think it is different in the sense that if I was a property owner and I owned every house for rent in a city and I happened to not like one particular group of people and refused to rent to them, then you could make a case that I'm actively harming you.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas if I refuse to bake your wedding cake, it's a little harder for me to buy into the, oh, you're harming me.
Yeah, and I thought there was an act that was already passed about the Anti-Discrimination Act, right? That you, as a private business, couldn't refuse service to somebody because they were gay because they're not openly threatening or causing potential harm to your customers. Hasn't this already been a discussion that was settled by the Supreme Court? Like, there are some places where you can't have even if the state is open carry policy, like in Arizona, right, where it's a constitutional right to carry, you can't necessarily open carry in all restaurants because of the potentiality to actually cause.
Well, that's
harm.
at the discretion of the restaurant owners.
Right. And so I thought there was a bill that already ran through.
I mean that because when you talk about that example of the pizza parlor, and I recall that it's slightly worrisome because it's almost a little bit like the Wild Wild West out there on the internet. Those with more influence could do a lot more damage.
That is a good point. Yeah.
To a small business, small business says, let's say like your recording studio, word gets out that you refuse someone based on, I mean, who knows? They're on drugs, they were high in here, and then somebody who is, here's that story. Next thing you know, you've got all this negative press and negative comments, maybe unfounded and ungrounded, and that shuts you down.
Well, and the whole thing was a bit ridiculous because it was a theoretical question.
Yeah, right.
It's not like they had ever actually denied the service.
Right. So that probably wasn't a very fair
Yeah.
treatment for this company.
But also they stuck by their position and they were very public about their position.
Yeah, which may not be
forward.
the best business move.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right that this question is only going to become more complicated. Here's an article that talks about how in this generation, millennial and younger, that 49% of people are not 100% heterosexual anymore. Among 18 to 24-year-olds, 1 out of every 2 people consider themselves as not fully straight. There, and so gender fluidity is
BuzzFeed.
And no. This is a
Huffington Post
or YouGov.uk. So right with the big.
So in a survey asked, "Are you 100% heterosexual?" Only 51% said yes.
Yeah, of this generation, and so pretty interesting when you consider the idea of how
It's ridiculous.
much.
You can't just quote some study on here and expect me to respond to it.
No, here's
what if they interviewed 17 people at an extreme.
So British
What if
adults.
they used MTurk?
Yeah, British adults were asked to place themselves on the Kinsey scale, ranging from 0, completely heterosexual, to 6, completely homosexual. So 72% of the Great Britain adults said that they were. So everybody older than 25 said that they were.
I'm not saying that survey has no value, but
I bring it up to say that gender fluidity is something that is becoming so much more of the norm for what's to come. So
hasn't the Kinsey scale been kind of fallen out of favor? We'll say.
I have no idea. This was just something that I had seen a while back.
Sounds like it would.
And so, it's too specific, man. There's too many labels on it.
Well, I'm not going to go into the study, but what if like 10 on heterosexual means that you've never have even seen another naked person of your own gender? I mean, I don't know. It could be a ridiculous scale.
Yeah, and fair enough. I think the idea, though, is still stands to reason that because of how hard media and just the LGBT community has fought for this idea of being able to kind of assert more gender neutrality in the way that we talk about things, or
Correct.
really understand that not all gender fluidity is neutral or as fixed as we think there.
Like pangender and
Yeah. I mean, I have the first time I heard a friend of mine say that she was like pansexual essentially there, and it was this was 4 years ago, and it was just like jaw dropping. I had no idea, but I think it's an interesting conversation to have maybe at a later stage. But just this idea largely that discusses saying that we need legislature for this, I just don't know. I know that churches are amending this problem by clearly defining in their bylaws what they state, what they're okay with, and what they're not doing. But I think you can still, or
more of that's going to happen, and more of that's going to change.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how the discussion goes. But we would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the subject? What would you like to chime in? And are we crazy? Am I just a bigot? Is Garrett totally wrong and a jerk? How much of an a-hole is Chris?
Pretty big one, really.
Let us know.
Generally.
Oh, hey, for
We
the
should
record,
make more solid statements for people to say that.
we got our first troll comment on
Right.
YouTube. Somebody
And a
called
dislike?
Yeah, and a dislike, all in the same video. Somebody called us white devils.
Really?
It was rad. I was really excited.
Based on
'cause it's
what,
we
content?
made it, guys. We're on. We're officially part of the internet family.
Based on what?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I've been called worse. on
20
the internet.
questions based on the 20 questions segment.
So, so to wrap up, what would you? Well, that's okay.
We've said what we need to.
We spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, we
Follow us.
we skirted the question quite well.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
we
I mean,
said nothing definitive.
Yeah,
quite well.
those
I was very definitive.
I
in my-
definitively want private bathrooms.
and
Yeah. And I think the government shouldn't be able to force us to do anything.
Seriously, some of y'all smell.
Take a shower, Luke. I'm just kidding. I'm in agreement with that. I don't want to be told to marry who I don't want to marry, and that's discriminating everybody equally.
Correct.
There are plenty of heterosexual couples, friends of mine, that have asked me to marry that I've said no to, because I don't believe in your relationship.
Do you think Kim Davis wouldn't have issued me a marriage certificate because my wife had been divorced before?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly inconsistent.
I'm sure she would, but yeah, I'm sure she'd be inconsistent in her viewpoint.
Just a curious question.
And, right, but I mean, and so that's a real reality that we have to deal with there.
Right.
But honestly, if you take a governmental job, there shouldn't be a special provision for you. You should be forced to issue marriage.
That's a
Honestly-
definitive statement from Josh.
Yeah, so there's mine. So follow us on facebook.com/faithandwhatever. Let us know your thoughts on this video. I know this is like super hot button right now, and we're really trying to get in the gravitas of it all, and we want to be a part of the social media turmoil.
And we're trying to be real and authentic, which means you can disagree with us and call us.
You probably
Ridiculous.
won't disagree with me because my opinion is so well thought out. So facebook.com/faithandwhatever, faithandwhatever.com. We'll see you soon.